Kansa lo kange lo de timne tin dala nyen dara nam dara sala ve chinyen den gun chi shin sen che nyen ge to kara le pan zin kanda se be chun ra ma re men to ma dung ala je se ve Dōso gōng lai pūjī tarāng tsē yen lai chūjī yang tēn sōng. Dō tarā chir dō nyun mō nyen lō lē jī chāng dō dō dzē chīng. Mā rī mō sī lē tū ngā lai nyung gō e chī nye chū dzē rāl rī nō. Dēne dā jīn sā chū thār sēn yēn dēn lē dōi gyāl sē tū vē gu. Chū thāi chū dāi chū nī gēn dē thā lū mū sē jān bē yān lā dū. Om Arabazana Deo Marabazana 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 Marabazana Deo 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 Marabazana O Marabazana Ende Zeden Jeje Ken Rava Usreje Dalu Timo Mimba Ramsalan Kadan Tenje Shunglu Tomba Ye Lunje Pobe Nāngvā cālandu yasolo kāngcē tāvara de bāham chūngse tīvara de nāyāng gōmbō jamyāng chēnyē ne kīngmē pāyāng tōngvara yasho Ningje chenpe tsude ningme shen sungne me lam chenpo ngabja taba pekara taranga tsendo shirmendo tenpa tukje chen la chazal ujin sonlong penmen tongpo le jalwe namdur rangshin lunje to tsenzo peche yunden tsobar wa penma jungne talwe pesar yung Lutrup tome arya dewan dang ingin chonglang chungye chabe shaba yunden yue dang shangje yue langso kenchu chongni namla sulwa de 마위 승계 관계 릭비메 시드리 롱네 청드린 공세 장 잠베 파지로 두드레 고nye 바 롱선 슈기 상보 잘주르제 강리 토갈라른 진닝베 고로 연된 군중 가위에 제살로 닝베 든도 베베 나저로 바 롱친 람점 샵라 솔로바 데베 레동 잠발리 슈는 진람레 공베 롱네 보베 데제로 롱도 현전 장소 나왕주로 매밤 잠명 남자라 솔바 대베 오면 저제 인계 보장네 두숨 상제 군제고 랑심 청거로 무슨 돈제바 자외 라미 샵라 솔바 대 대양 조바 남기 타다냠베 심제 탐제 동말 준denye 당달 톱자라나메 바양다 버조베 상제제 고방림보 첼라 고바르지오 대체도 담비추 대nye 선진 출신도 냠술랑 와르지오 냠비 삼바 장주 초도 투게바 림보치 살다베고네 셈바르쇼 강 셈바르차위 추게 림바네 케비 술라 주빈 고셰 차위 덴저 티니 딜라양 케바르차위 네주 추기 dom시 소소 양다베 릭바시 고네 요발레 당보 케비 내주 갑라니 딜라양 데네 풍보 감 계체 숨쉬 신네 시바 덴들기 갑라니 덴들기 갑라양 가식 쉬 신네 가상게 트레니 말라슈나.
At the beginning of class, please give rise to bodhicitta, thinking, may all sentient beings, who are as numerous as the sky is vast, attain a state that is free of suffering and the causes for suffering. And may I be able to establish all those sentient beings at the level of perfect and complete Buddhahood, of full awakening, the ultimate result. And in order to do so, may I now study and reflect and put the teachings correctly into practice. With that kind of motivation, please listen to the teachings. The text that we are studying in this class is the Gateway to Knowledge, or the treatise entitled The Gate for Entering the Way of a Pandita by Mipa Rinpoche. And the text is divided into 3 sections. First, the 10 topics of expertise, then the 4 seals of Dharma, and then the fourfold correct discrimination. And we're currently discussing the 10 topics of expertise, out of which we have already covered the first 3, the aggregates, the elements, and the sense sources. And we are in the process of completing the 4th chapter, the chapter on dependent origination.
네, 저와 제도 당공 빼셔샤나 텐데 양라 주니데 자와 자속게 계제직라 창기레스는 쇼이캅라 속초바타울라 촌나스는 다디낭라네 pena lembas na le tende yana chunyi na ne lemba ane sipas na ane kewas pena kashis na tenzo yang kande ina na chiwach tu sokche dewe kapdela tene kechik chima ne chima je lega chima ni chima de lega kechik ngama zoksa ne chima lega de chu lemba am chu lega de la juba de lembi chare Didu kapdela sokcho sagi yuldang sokcho ken rangi pungbo tenzo de sipa gi yanlare sipa di latene kewa chima neri kangda kangdo kewa ki sipa nido chawe na sipas di chela kewa sino sokcho gi le de ane sokcho bi le dulo tanda kejik tada latene ke shimba tang sokcho ne tanda sokcho shimbi kapti lega de la tanda ke shimba tang lega ti kangla ne kapla lep shimba tang tene yang dene tene kejik nipa tang sumba tang shiwa la sopa tindugi ne kap kangla lepa ne kap kangla kewa na kewas lega 탐제 juk du to ro kapla ne de gyursing lega da ngamani chima tendes gyur kapla tende yana chuni wangdo samtana pena kawa tusu gyurwe wange da gyurwe wange 자와치 땡돌라 유릉고 메데네 아니 계직장 메데네 되네 유르비 차라 가와스 디디컬라 레가데다 유르고라 마시 속주비 레가데나 유르고라 아니 남신은 레가데 참 저거기 뒤서들라 시위 양락기 출도 되도스 된도 다 자족이 계직이 덴델스네 라비레스 말에
We had a couple of questions from yesterday, and the first one was with regard to how the 12 links apply to a moment of completing an act. So how do we identify the 12 links within the completion of one action? And the example that was given was that of the action of killing. And so the question was about the last links. How do we apply the links of grasping, becoming, birth, and old age and death in that example? That wasn't so clear. So when we speak about this moment of completing an act, then in the process of the action of killing, for example, one engages in the action from one moment to the other. So as the engagement of the previous moment ceases, one engages in the next moment of the action of killing. And that's that kind of engagement from moment to moment is grasping. So the actual engagement. Then the 5 the aggregates that arise from one moment to the next, that are the the aggregates of the at the moment of the act of killing, then and that lead to new existence, that are the causes for yet a new moment of existence of these aggregates, are then what we call becoming. The aspect of being in the process of the action, having arrived in the present moment of the action and arriving in the second moment and the third moment and so on. So that aspect of arriving there, getting there, and engaging in the action, that's the becoming. That's the birth. So that's the actual, just conceptually, we can think of it as the arriving at the present moment of killing. And then when we engage in the action of killing, actually, there is constant change from moment to moment. The action changes, right? It's not stagnant, but there's continuous change while as we engage in the action. So it changes from moment to moment, doesn't stay one way for a long time. And that process of changing, constant movement, constant change, that's aging. That refers to aging. And death is then the completion of the action, so the final finalization of it. So in that way, we can understand these last links to apply to different aspects of the action of killing.
Tene tiwa kaka de kebi yanla ne kashi pardo tanda yanla ki kola keje shedi kapte la yanla shen nam dubar chebi gyu kashe je shere shen tenzo ta ane pena karisana kene namso ane mingsu ki nyugu chubar che tos chubar chebi yanla raushi tenzo gyu tenzo ki tenne ane shimbe tenzo chub yungi res la raushi chubar chebi yanla raushi rwa pena marikpa tang, le tang, sepa tang, namshi tenzo la tenne tene mingsu tang, ane rikpa, keche chuk tang, kawa tang, shiwa tenzo jubgi res, tsu yong tuki res, tsu chung tuki res chungwar gyurba ki lega rauchi, konzo ta inje ta lega ji kari, dinzo kabla, didu kabla konzo kari lega karnde rau dosan konzo deta jubye rau, chungye, yongye rawa rauchi lega chi towa
And so when we look at the presentation of the 12 links, then when we look at birth and old age and death, they are actually described in the sense of fully established links, while the craving, grasping, and becoming, they are the fully establishing links. So the causes in different ways, in different functions, and the function of the fully establishing links is to make something come about, to make something arise, to establish something. So what do they establish? That's then the fully established links of birth, old age, and death. So they bring it about, and we have to see it in that way.
가상기 말라 무튜니로나 록중게 텐델 때다 마릭바 요나 두제나 남셰 무튜니 진짜 지겨나 지 중화된서 록중게 텐델 라이로 데다 탐제 두나 레뉴는가네 두제당 시바니네 레 마리 시바 렘바 숨데네 뇽몽 된저 숨데당 니데 dom나나 오 된저 데네 덴바시 나네 페나 주군중게 덴바 나나 뒤두고요세 군중 레당 아니 뇽몽 바스네 숨마나시 군중게 덴바데 간데르스나 레당 뇽몽 바스 숨마나시 제네 레당 뇽몽 바 된저 나오데 군중게 덴베나 뒤라스 딩아 로사베체를 학마 듬보데 데 동알게 감순 동알 숨게랑신도 디 동알게 덴베나나 뒤두고요스 주군중네 때네 중샤바게 동알게 덴베나나 뒤두고요스 양 록중게 덴데레 또 로도게 왕도 제나 로도게 왕도 제나서나 베나 마릭바데 다음에 된 똑비 고네스 뎀비 춘니 똑비 이시기 마릭바 빵나서 로도게 왕도 제나 뎀비 춘니 된저기 넬루로와 마릭바데 지다르 임바단 되게 다음에 된 지다르 임바 된저 탐제 된저게 된데도 하고비 고네 된데게 뎀비 춘니게 똑비 이시 통 톱나더니 초기 넬루라 마릭바데 빵투기레스 초기 넬룩데 리바 하고 도와제 용기레스 dinner riba yong de kapdela marik pa pang ne sen ti kapla tine le kunjung ge demba le tang nyomong ma den zo pang ne denzo tamji ge niluk de ha ko wi cha de la lam ge dembas ishe de la chunyi to be ishe marik pa pang ne riba 다나 신 텐들 심바는서 탐제게 장신 메바 덴버 주바 탐제 빵위고네 den동 데 시에통나 춘니데 시에통나 지가라와 오덴저 남기 덴바 당스 디 젤라테니 동알기 시듬보 대신도 고바스 제 람댕게 줄라제 톰나 아니 텐들 심바 덴조 양스 단다제 마릭바당 로와 레당 뇽몽바 덴조 탐제데 빵톱나 안 덴데리 심바 듬보 덴조 양세 데네 대신이도 춘이 대신이 덴데게랑 신도 조톱네 아니 춘이 대신이 게랑 신도 조위 차델라 아니 잘 차델라 단다 동알레 달위차 민숙레 달위차 깨체레 달위차 초르와 세바 렘바 세바 깨와 된조 탐제레 달위차데라 고바스 인데 고비 덴바데 아니 덴바데스 고비 덴바스 단 덴바 제 남장 쇼리 덴바데레도 고뎀데스 덴든 넘바 춘니게 랑신노스 마릭베게 랑신디셰 리바 다나 신기 denzo 탐제 랑싱게 두바 메바당 디 왕두라 마도바체네 춘니기 된 통통나 데레레 신도 넬루레레레레 통통나 디 탐제게 넬루도 통통나 뎀비 된 넘바 춘니기 랑신 노스 디 루중게 왕두라 덴정기 뎀비 된 통웨게 랑신 넘바 춘니 노스 랑신 노스.
Okay, so if we now continue with our text. We're at paragraph 441 on page 59. To explain this further, understand consciousness to be like 41. When these interdependent links in progressive order are condensed, the 5 karmas and disturbing emotions are included under the truth of origin, and the remaining 7 fall under the truth of suffering. So, when we look at the 12 links, we said that we can summarize ignorance, craving, and grasping as the disturbing emotions, and formations and becoming are karma. And as such, then, they apply to the Four Noble Truths in the following way. So, karma and afflictive emotions are actually describing the truth of the origin of suffering, that the cause, and the cause for suffering. And then the other 7 of the 12 links, so consciousness, name and form, the 6 sources, contact, sensation, rebirth, old age, and death, they are describing the truth of suffering. They constitute the 3 types of suffering. And so disturbing emotions and karma are the truth of origination, and therefore the cause for the truth of suffering, which are the 7 other bases, the 7 bases of suffering. So that's the progressive order, that the truth of the 12 links that is this that can be categorized into the truth of origination and the truth of suffering. And then as for the reverse order, in the next paragraph it says, in terms of reverse order, having relinquished ignorance through the wisdom that realizes the true nature of the truths, the reversal of the 5 path, the 5 that are karmas and disturbing emotions, is the truth of the path. So when we are able to reverse ignorance, when we're able to counteract ignorance, meaning that if we realize the suchness, the true nature of the truth, if we come to realize, to give rise to primordial wisdom that realizes selflessness, if we're able to abandon ignorance through coming to know the Four Noble Truths for what they are, for as the true realization of a noble being, then with the reversal of ignorance, we will also have abandoned the other links of karma and afflictions. So then no craving, grasping, formation, and becoming will come about. And so that's that's to know the true nature of phenomena. That's to know the that's to know things for what they are. And that actually describes the truth of the path. So it's the reversal of the 5 disturbing emotions and karma links. So it's a reversal of ignorance, craving, grasping, formation, and becoming. That's the truth of the path refers to. And then the 12 other links, to know those, the other 7 of the 12 links are the 7 bases of suffering, and knowing their essence, knowing that they're empty of true nature, knowing their suchness. So as the truth of the path arises in one's mind, then those other links will not arise. They will cease to exist, and the aspect of the fact that they do not appear, so this aspect of the freedom from those, that's the truth of cessation. So when we're able to abandon ignorance, and with that the other disturbing emotions and karma, then the 7 bases of suffering will be realized for their true nature, for suchness, and so they will change into suchness, and that's the aspect of being um, free from those links, free from suffering, and so that's then cessation. That's the truth of cessation. So that is describing the um, complete purification, the process of complete purification, that if we can reverse ignorance and if we can see that phenomena are not truly established, um, and so on, if we're able to see the four truths for what they truly are, then the reversal of ignorance leads to lack of the um, disturbing emotions and karma, which then, with the cause being gone, leads to freedom from suffering, freedom from the seven bases of suffering, and that's cessation. So in this way, we can see that the reverse order describes the truth of the path and the truth of cessation. Likewise, the ceasing of the seven bases of suffering is the truth of cessation. Thus, they are the nature of the 12-fold points of truth. So, in that context, it's the 12 ways of perceiving the truth for what it is, perceiving the true nature of the 12 links, and that frees. That describes the truth of the path and the cessation, the correct understanding without any ignorance.
Tendara tenjin tungwara chungwa tenne tenne ya kondo chi tendel tang tenne nangi tendel yuyen tang cheba tenzo sung sungwa tang ten tenzo zo chebe ta chi tang tendel ki korla ta kyashima mangbo yungyo yorwa o tenzo tamjen tenne sangye ki sungye zo ki nang sangye ki tumba yang daba zobe sangye ki kar kollo rimba sum rao ane dene sumge nangla dene daw dene sabadan gyachewe che de la soba de samje meje che mangbo zo nangshin sung yorwa de nangni kyang tanda de tendel ge kecha korla keja sonjo de che dene ane pe chebo pe za chenbo pe ding chenbo dene samlo zo chewa de la tang ko ya imba o dene ge cheba as cheba dang ane samor gyurba de sabmo sena pena porwagi nangla chuyo na zugu indes ma lakwa indes ma zugu chudi kala lamsang porwadi chudi kala ji nyop thogi rawa pena gyatso nangla ane chuyo de kala lakwa jang na gyatso gi ma ok ting de nyop thogi mare pe mes sapore pe ti nang singi kunzu gi chuyo denzo la soso kiwo denzo tang ane chumda la shubha tang ma shubha sui na lamsang jigla nyop thugi yores kunzu chöla yina ya tendel gi chö denzo la tene soso ki denzo ki lamsang jigla de nyop thugi mare pecha shana gyamso nang la chu o de chu de ting sapo kande me lakpa gi che jamne nyop ma thu nang shingi no telesene samur gyurba de se da samur gyurba de karirasna zo de mari bi ong la jo mani mariba yosa we chela tene le ke mige tene mewi le sa namshe tengdula pakcha sha ane tela soba tene tende yang la chunye kecha che tanji ya mala lepi do ang tenzo ki wangdula jurne tene tendel ki kecha de ta samoni do jurwa des su sherap ki chengi tenjen jawara chungwa thongwa des di taw tendel ki kola lobjong chang tene 퇴삼 검숨 지위 권에 안에 대 퇴비 셔랍다 삼비 셔랍 곰비 셔랍기 대시 젠스나다 통화라 통 내륙의 통화라 제외 차나 젠스 민 다샤의 젠기 덴진 저와라 중화 통나서 디우 강시 중화라니 유단 젠라 덴네 안에 공도 펜춘 저와 예배나 덴델스 덴제 중화 된데 통tum나스
텐들기 된통 톱나다 변나 단다 야강라 덴든 남바 주니에스는 송게도와 안에 덴바시기 내룩대 네네 지 텐데 양라 주니에게 내룩대 대 통화대 명라와 대다우 통화대네 파람 계기랑 신진지 최 통신세 대 덴든 남바 주니 통통송나 되네 따와 양답바 단당아조 따와 록바 닥도 짐바 타르다 록다 되네 따와 초신 대좀 나서 받은 저 여러와 따와 되네 따와 양답바 께 토기래 되네 삼로 똑바 양답비 나 양답비 레게 타 양답비 초와 양답비 졸와 아니 양답비게 젬바 양답비게 띵에 젠세 팔람염나 께 되네 지낭이도 어딘저기랑 신기 최든저 통신 되네 이시기 식배 셰셰 탐제 툭수 추바스 이시기 식배스는 다 이시데라 양 당공 시바난신레 리모티비 다와 추난게 다웨 숭니 남칸랑 문네 다와스 되네 또 소소케고 감라 이시기 식배스디 감라 되네 랑게 텐줄게 된데라 퇴삼 곰숨 가츠게 제토와 대당 답균네 대당 법이고네 추인난게 다웨 숭니담 리모티와암 남케 다왕문에도 어디로 통하는 신진의 이식이 식배스 근데 텐들게 된데 이식이 식배 셰자 탐제 되는 특수 추바니도 요네 되는 상제 추주고 통화이노 상제 추주고 데라 양답에나 텐들게 된데 리모 지웨게 베나 다와 다우지기 통통나 리모 지와 다우게 단다 상제 추주고리 통화래 양 추능라 다웨 숭예 다우게지 텐데게지 통통나 양 지 다딩 잠추주고리 통화래 되는 무수데 통통나 무수데 톱투에 라소바 이시 유데라 딘데요레 디우데라 양 딘데스네 차로게 요스네 통화 있노 시에송소 딘들 갑스
So in that way, dependent origination ranks as an essential and profound teaching among the treatises of the Buddha's word. When we look at this topic of dependent origination, there's outer interdependent origination and interdependent origination, which was all taught based on causal and conditional relationships. And that teaching is an incredibly vast and profound teaching. When we look at the three wheels of Dharma that the Buddha taught, the topic of interdependent origination is a crucial one. Also, if you look at the three Pitakas, the Tipitaka, the three baskets, the teachings of the dependent origination are really important. And they're also the profound and the vast teachings and so on. In any classification that we make of the teachings of the Buddha, which is as vast as a huge treasury. So the whole, the entirety of the Buddha's teachings that is likened to a treasury, a huge treasury, then the topic of dependent origination is one of the most sacred, the most profound, the most worthy of our consideration and contemplation, because it's so deep and so important and helpful if we realize it. And it's likened to, like it's so profound. Here it says it's essential and profound. It's so profound that it means that it's hard to fathom, hard to reach its full depth. It's so deep. It's really for us as ordinary beings, it's impossible to reach all the way to its most profound meaning. If we just have a bowl of water, then we can reach the bottom of the bowl. We can reach into or put our fingers into the water, and we can reach the bottom of the bowl easily. But if we have a huge ocean, then we can put our hand into the ocean, but we cannot reach all the way to the ground. It's too deep. And in the same way, the teachings of dependent origination are also likened to be so deep and profound as a vast ocean, and it's hard to even fathom the bottom, the final extent of it. So whether or not one engages in a philosophical school, is a proponent of a philosophical school, relative things, relative phenomena can be easily understood. One can reach their meaning easily. That's like the bowl of water. But dependent origination cannot be fathomed by that easily. That's why it's likened to the depth of an ocean. And it's so profound because it's so important, so essential, because through understanding the dependent origination, ignorance can be dispelled. Ignorance leads to virtuous and non-virtuous defiled karmic actions, and to the accumulation of their habitual tendencies. And through the true understanding and the realization of dependent origination, that ignorance can be reversed. And so it's essential to uproot all the causes for suffering. That's why it's essential and profound. And so if we then study, reflect, and meditate on the 12 links of dependent origination, then we can come to know the truth. We can come to see the true nature of phenomena, the abiding mode. The next sentence reads, "The one who perceives dependent origination with the eyes of discriminating knowledge will come to see the dharmas possessing the nature of the Eightfold Noble Path, and with the wisdom gaze which comprehends all objects of knowledge will perceive the Dharmakaya of Buddhahood. Thus it has been taught." So if one realizes the meaning of dependent origination, if one directly sees the meaning of that dependent origination, that is then likened to the wisdom eye. The eye of discriminating knowledge or wisdom, and that refers to seeing the true abiding mode. So through and here we speak about the wisdom that arises from studying, the wisdom that arises from contemplating, and the wisdom that arises from meditating. So if we can perceive the true nature through the wisdom eye, the eye of wisdom that arises based on study, reflection, and meditation, then we can actually see that anything that appears arises based on causes and conditions and so forth, that there is no true inherent nature, that there is just mutual interdependence. And so one comes to see the nature, the true nature, or the abiding mode of the Four Noble Truths and their aspects. And that then really refers to the Eightfold Noble Path. One will come to see the nature of the Eightfold Noble Path with the right view, the right resolve, the right speech, the right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. That's the path. And the right view is to realize that things are not truly established, to uphold the correct view that is free from extreme views, from the views of supremacy, from wrong view, from doubt, and all that we have discussed previously. So free from all of the wrong view, the mistaken view, 5 mistaken views, and what comes along with that, and then one will correctly apprehend and practice the Eightfold Noble Path. And when one really apprehends dependent origination correctly, then that also means that one can comprehends all objects of knowledge will so, and also then with the wisdom eye that apprehends that correctly, the wisdom gaze, which comprehends all objects of knowledge, will perceive the Dharmakaya of Buddhahood. So also Buddhahood is being directly perceived, the Dharmakaya of the Buddha, which refers to suchness, to the Dharmadhatu. And so that's the ultimate nature, the ultimate truth, the nature of all phenomena that is being perceived there. So one can directly perceive Buddhahood and the Dhammakaya through the wisdoms that arise from listening, reflecting, and meditating. And this is again likened to the example that I've given before. I said that when we first study a topic, when we study the 12 links of dependent origination, and then our understanding of it, our intellectual understanding of the 12 links or of dependent origination in general, is like the drawing of a moon on a wall. And then as we contemplate through the wisdom of that arises from contemplation, the apprehension of the moon is like the apprehension of the moon and as it reflects in water. And then the direct realization, the direct perception of the true nature of the deep meaning of dependent origination is that a wisdom that arises from meditation. That's the direct insight then, and that's like seeing the moon directly, like looking up in the sky at night and seeing the actual moon. And so we have the 3 wisdoms that arise from the three practices of studying, reflecting, and meditating. And accordingly, we can see the Dhammakaya described, that we usually describe in terms of the realization of a Buddha. That is what we then also directly perceive, either in a conceptual way, like a coarse version of it, like a drawing of the moon, or more precisely, like the moon and that reflects in the water, or the actual moon in the sky, when we have the direct insight or the direct realization, the direct perception of the Dhammakaya. So that is how dependent origination leads us to see that to correctly understand dependent origination leads also to the direct apprehension of the Eightfold Noble Path, and then also to the Dhammakaya. And the direct realization of the Dharmakaya when we speak about seeing it with a wisdom eye. And so this was the chapter on impermanence. Oh, sorry, that was Gonda. That was not the chapter on impermanence. That was the chapter on interdependence. That gick så.
dental capsules that dental kola ke ja shwa yin so dental capsules tene dental de la da lo chung chang tho ane thosam komsum dental che thum na ne tanda 지 친능기 대비 최 탐제 유메발라 중화 마인 바데 하고 그래 송아래 유 마인 바 난게 sem진데도 탐제야 유 마리바 라소 바텐데 주니게 추도 중화 임바당 철로게 뭐보양 빼차샤나 사변 요고 담아 동부 보고 매도 지고 라소 바텐데 중화당 다나생 칠로게 뭐보 탐제 찍을 유긴라 때네 중임발라 때네 유메발라 마임바다 하고 그래스 니 유 마임발레 셴레장 마중화데 하고 그래스 안에 유 마임바 유 민바페나 심진데도 코랄라 코레데 유데 마리바 레마도비 마리바 마임바 심바지기 심진데도 코랄라 코르도 주죠 말에 데네페나 데게 아니 디우데 용해체돌라 데게 사변당 아니 데게 뉴구 동부 보고 되네 매도 라소바 된데기 때문에 중개를 마도비 양 디마인바 유멤바 심배직라 중개 말에서 된데라 때문에 되네 탐제 친한게 되비 최 탐제 아니 유진 찍라 때문에 샤베 낭 된데스네 된들기 원게 낭와지 용되게레스 치기 직대에 나라도 난게 sem제 나라도 된저 탐제 강 아니 dental 왕네 나외나 되네 디 임발레 때네 당라 제바포 따바디 독스 당 제바포스 당 제바포 슈나 페나 페나 유마임바 닥 첨복이 소와레스 최 지능기 최 탐제 안에 유 멤버 되네 조당 왕추당 안 된족이 제발해서 다 된도 닥침보 된족이 제발해서 된적이 진바야 독일에서 양 배나 나란서이나 양 쪽제데 녜 서바인스 뎁데 녜 서바인스 이게데 녜 디바인스 계제데 녜 셰바인스 라이도 된데 안에 닥라 뭐보든지 탐제게 소바보데 나랑 임바 소라우지 된데 3개월에서 이나양 덴들기 콜라 계제셔디 갑라 nga second yang lakpa kangba suko thamje tak chamin ba dine didu yigi di chigdi kabla nyugo dang deb dang nasa dang tenso mangbo yo ba chokje de sowe kapde la yang sing dang tare dang dine chalang mo bo kangda kang ku ba mangbo je chone 중기 yo ba dine she song na ngai soba yin ngai chebare la do dinde gi zimba de dok thu gi res ne de la soba chö kangda kangin ba 제 유메벨의 중화당 유마임바 닥다오당 되네 되도 탐제를 짐바 도네 닥 제바 보임바디 짐바도 더 두게 됐습니다.
So concludes here by saying this was the chapter of interdependence, and so this means that if we study, contemplate, and meditate upon interdependence, then we come to understand all the workings of outer and interdependence. The fact that all outer and inner phenomena arise based on causes and conditions. They appear based on causes and condition in the manner of dependent origination, and they're not causeless, and they also don't originate from something else that is not the correct cause. then we can really understand. Then this really is the knowledge of how things appear. So when we speak about and we counteract this view that the self would be a creator. So in terms of outer phenomena, we have things like the sprout or the plant, which arises based on its own very own causes and conditions without needing without being free of causes. So there are causes and conditions, and it's also not created by something that is not its cause. So something else different than its causes. When we looked at the links of outer interdependence, we said that rice, as the fruit, rises from all the different stages of the precise its precise own causes, like the seed leading to the sprout, to the stamen, stalk, bud, flower, and then finally we have the fruit. We have the rice as the fruit. And there's no other force, no creator that would make the rice arise apart from its own correct causes. And the same holds true for inner interdependence. We can see that through the presence of ignorance, the other 12 links unfold. And so there's no other cause, there's no other cause that would be an incorrect cause that leads to the origination of the 12 links. It's precisely on each step, it's exactly those causes and conditions that are there. They are the causes and conditions that give rise to the result. And so we can see that with the presence of the causes and conditions, the result will arise, whether we speak about outer or inner interdependence. And when the causes and conditions are present, then the result will arise. If they're not present, it will not arise. So the arising does not happen from something else but its own causes, and the arising does not take place without the causes. And so we can see that really all outer phenomena, not only the plant, but also the table and so forth, are arising based on causes and conditions, their own particular causes and condition, and not something else. And also, the experience of sentient beings also happens based on particular causes and conditions, and it can be fully described by these causes and conditions without needing a creator self. The creator self here, in the bigger sense, in the philosophical sense, refers to ideas of a great self as the creator, as a creator god, or time, and so on, the different ways to grasp to something that creates samsaric experience apart from the particular causes and conditions. So that kind of idea of a creator self can be reversed, but also through studying, reflecting, and meditating upon dependent origination, we stop grasping to ideas of the self as the creator of things. So usually we say, oh, I wrote this letter, I built this table, I did this and that, I said these words. So we always identify a self to be the one that does these actions and fulfills the creation of things. But really, when we look at dependent origination, we can see that this is not the case. actually, for a letter to be written, there need to be different things, and if they're all present, so if there's an intention, if there is a pen, if there is ink, if there's table, if there's paper, if there's a table to place the paper on, and all these conditions and many, many more are present, then the writing takes place. There, we can describe the action completely based on its causes and conditions, and there is no self that would be the actual writer. And that's what we can understand through the presentation of dependent origination. The same for all other actions. For building the table, we need the wood, we need the nails, we need a hammer, we need the wood being cut, we need space to put it into place. All of that, like when all the causes and conditions are present, then the result will arise without there being a singular cause or a creating cause that would make all of this happen. That would be the self. So we can see that the arising does not depend on a self, but on all these different causes and conditions, including the intention and the outer circumstances and so on. So also the idea that I do these things, that kind of ego grasping idea of the me being the creator of things, the doer of things, that will fall away if we understand dependent origination correctly. So this is summed up in the idea that dependent origination shows that phenomena do not arise from what is not their cause, or from incorrect causes, nor without causes, but precisely in the way that it unfolds in dependent origination based on causes and conditions.
디젤라 아니 네 심바 네단 니민 네단 네 마인바네 셰자 탐제라 캡데스 네세나 고갑 요바 딕바 릭바 테바 웨바네 시기레 용기레 라이도시 네 마인바세는 미딕바 용기 마레 아니 고갑 메 라이도시 딘데던다레 네 유강레 강중 미중게 케바르 개위 레레 대화 중심 동알 미중 대화 중화대 내 임바 고갑 요바 딕바 롱바 시바 아니 개위 레레 동알 대 미중화대 개위 레레 아니 동알 미중화대 딕바 롱와도래 양 개위 레 체네 양 아니 치 동알 중화도대 양 미딕바도 네 마인바스 개위 레레 대화 중심 동알 미중와스 네 임바단스 제게 사변 레 랑게 뇨고 게라 네게 뇨고 메게바타우 강 다메par 똑바레 타르바토바 네 인라스 다메바 똑톱나 아니 타르바토베데 네 임바 시바 딕바 고갑 요바 다메바 똑라 양 타르바니 마톱니 되나 디도데 네 민바레 어데 네 임바세나 요 가리 중개요나 제우대 대대신도 고갑 요바 딕이 요바 되는 네 임바스 딘데칼라 두롱 페데 디네랑 샤레 다메 파라 토팔레 타르바 토바레 네 인라스 다 요파라 짐발레 타르바 토바데 다 요파라 짐발레 타르바 토바데 네 민바타우 당스 메데 차와 인신 데라 장와기기 네 메바 다우 셰자 탐제기랑 신라 네단 네미베 나소바 요도
So we have now reached then the next chapter, chapter number 5, the correct and the incorrect. And this presentation of the correct and the incorrect really encompasses all phenomena. Paragraph 5.1 on page 61 reads, The categories of what is correct and incorrect encompass all objects of knowledge. So when we speak about correct and incorrect, that it really means that something is correct, then there's the opportunity for it, it's okay, it's logical, it's suitable, it's possible. All of that speaks about the correct. So, and incorrect is then when there is no opportunity for this to happen, for something, or for something to be a fact. There, it's not okay. It's not correct. It's not suitable. It's not logical. It's not possible at all. That's the understanding that we need to have from correct and incorrect. And so that really encompasses all phenomena, all objects of knowledge can be described in yet another way of classifying them into what is correct and what is incorrect. So we can that also includes all objects of knowledge. And what do we mean with this? They are the difference between what results and what does not result from a certain cause. So the question is what arises from a certain cause and what is impossible to arise from that cause. That's the distinction that is being made. So is it, when we say something, is that a possibility or is it not a possibility? Is it a correct statement or an incorrect statement? And specifically, this describes, we can see that with all relative phenomena. So, for example, for instance, it is correct that pleasure results from various action, from virtuous action and not pain. So virtuous actions are the cause for pleasure, for positive experiences. That's a correct statement. It's also correct to say that virtuous actions do not give rise to pain. The opposite would be incorrect. Virtuous actions lead to suffering. That's incorrect. That's impossible. There's no opportunity for this to be true. It's not suitable to say that. It's not okay. That's a wrong statement. It's incorrect. And so the correct way that things are, or the correct fact. The fact here is that pleasure results from virtuous actions, and pleasure does not, and virtuous actions do not result in pain. And that from a grain of rice grows a rice sprout rather than a barley sprout. It's also correct that from the cause of a rice seed, of a rice corn, then we get a rice sprout. It would be incorrect to say, or it's impossible, that barley sprout would arise from a rice seed. So we can describe the seeds also in terms of their right, what they're causing, what they in the correct way are causing. And so it's incorrect that a rice seed leads to, or a rice grain leads to a barley sprout. It is correct that the person who realizes the absence of self attains liberation, while it is incorrect that someone who holds the existence of a self attains liberation. So it is correct that if we realize selflessness, we can be liberated. We will be liberated. That's suitable. That's reasonable. That's possible. Like that's the possibility. That's the true way that it works. liberation does not occur for someone who holds onto the existence of a self. And so saying someone who holds onto the existence of the self attains liberation, that's a wrong statement. That's incorrect. That's impossible. So in this way, we can always make this, we can make correct connections and incorrect connections. There are things that are fact and there are things that are non-fact. So they are the opposite of a fact. It is correct that fire is hot and incorrect that it is cold. So not only do we speak about causal relationships, but also in terms of the essence here, it's correct that fire is hot. It's not correct that fire is cold. So we can see that from these examples that all objects of knowledge can be described by these categories of correct and incorrect. So we can look at facts and non-facts. As in these examples, all objects of knowledge by nature encompass various categories of what is correct and incorrect.
대 천재 잠도 시황 둔송데스 내다 내면데 천재기 체도라 시황 둔 기본의 숭게인스 대대는 말라 숭게도 둔보데 미드바 시황스 미기위 레기 겐돌 도와타우스 미드바데 겐돌라 도야데 미드바 시황데 가르사 미기위 시황게 안디 인디칼라 미드베 시황게 미기위 레기 겐돌 도와타우 다데 네 임바레스 미기위 레 제토나 겐돌레 도와데 네 임바스 페나 레가데 미기와 치니 양 덴돌라 도야도 양 겐돌라 메도바도 진데 지수는 양네 마임바와 단다드루 미기위 레기 아니 겐돌라 도와데 네 임바스 다는 신기 더바 시황세 니와데 더바 시황세 간데르스나 기위 레기 데도르 깨와 따오스 더바데 가레레 데돌라 도에기 더바 아니 시황데 기위 시황라 때네 아니 데돌라 도와 따오 다디안 네 임바레스 기위 레기 데돌라 도와 네 임바스 넘버 탁바 시황세 디 지바 마방바르 남다 미토바다오 디안 네 임바레스 지바데 마방나 남다데 미토바스 지바데 빵통나 남다데 통바스 도차 셰당 디무라 소바게 지바 지바된조 빵통나 아니 데 가래 최된조 탐제라 랑신게 조바예바게 된데기 짐바 탐제 빵족이라 디 남발라 짐바니도 차게데 빵족이라 디 남다 다 간다 지바데 마빵나 양 남다데 미토바다 오스 남다 시원스 드네 냠도 중화 시원 전담메베 레사베 상계당 코줄 레레 레 숭레 렌지 미중화다우 냠도 중외게 시왕승인데 간다르스나 전담메베 레사베 전담메바스나 코당 두투에 메베기 레라 전담메바스 전두르랑 아주 전 파츠 전두르시오라 전담메바스나 코당 두투에 메베기 레상 사바스 코단 두투에 미버게 레 사발라 때네 아니 빼샤샤나 코단 두투에 미버게 레 사바데 빼데두르 상계당 콜로 규비 잘보샤난도와 콜 상계데 빼나 카상 야강나지 슈와나신레 동숨생의 지인방아조 동숨기 직된성지 지레 동숨기 직된기 낭데라 아니 동숨기 직된데 상계 초기 줄고 찍기 둘싱레 둘자 디 똥숨기 직딩디기 낭라 상제 초기 줄구데 펩네 둘바라 남겨래 둘사기 싱데 똥숨기 데 직된데래 디 낭라 초기 줄구 찍 펩기라 마도비 디 둘레 치둘라 초기 줄구 니 숨로 펩기 말해스 데 코롱 똥숨기 견델라 초기 줄구 찍 펩기라 디 강르스나 냠도 중화 시왕기래서 냠도 중화 시왕색인데 된다메 빌레사 봐다 똥숨기 견데라 초기 줄고 찍 패배되기 레데 아니 디상게 대단 냠도를 생기 아니 젠들 투게 메바길래 단다 가스바바델라 똥숨기 견데라 패배되 레데 초기 줄고 다랑 찍고데 패배 임바길래 싹발라 뗐네 되네 코롱 찍고 패겨레스 콜로 주비 갈보 된조양 아니 레레 중기레 마도비 니 주로 냠도 중에 링시 링텐당 제바 된조라 왕규르켄기 인 갈보라 되니 콜로 주비 갈보라기도 링시 링텐당 제바라 왕규르켄 된조라 아니 제 갈보 제자당 제바 된조라 왕지 토긴 갈보라 아니 콜로 주비 갈보스 지단기 직딩 칸나 갈보 충충 된조 말해 콜로 주비 갈보스나 링시 링텐 당 제바 탐제라 왕로 교토긴 된조라 콜로 주비 디다우 된조 양 콜로 주비 갈보데 뒤수레레레레 라테네 레레레레 마도 중투게 말해서 간스나 뒤수 디기 깝톡 될라 아니 코롱 중화라 아니 된다메 빌레사 바르레스 어딘데스 타우
So now we look at the correct and the incorrect in terms of the 7 dependencies. That's just one way of outlining or looking at different ways to categorize what is correct and incorrect. So it says in paragraph 5.3, to roughly outline this, 7 dependencies are taught. And the first dependency is the dependency of the undesired. That is, for example, to go to the lower realms due to unvirtuous actions. So we don't, the correct fact is that if one engages in non-virtue, then one will be born in the lower realms. One will experience suffering. But one doesn't want that, right? It's not due to one's own volition that one is born in the lower realms, but it's due to the fact that if one engages in non-virtuous actions, that leads to rebirth in the lower realms. And so that's the correct statement. It would be incorrect to say that one is reborn in the lower realms due to one's desire. So even though one doesn't want it, if one engages, even if one doesn't want to be reborn in the lower realms, one will still have to be reborn there if one engages in the causes for it. If the actions are there, if one engages in the negative actions, then one will be reborn there, even though it's an undesirable result. We don't want that kind of result, but if we engage in the causes, we will get a result, and that's a fact. So that's this dependency of the undesired. So the undesired is being experienced because of the causes that lead to that which is undesired. Then the dependency of the desired is the opposite. Dependency of desired is the dependency of the desired is, for example, to be reborn in the happy states through virtuous actions. To be reborn in the upper realms and blissful states and with a lot of enjoyment, that's something that is desired. And it's not to one's desire that one is reborn there, but because of the fact of the virtuous actions that lead to rebirth in the higher realms. So here, the dependency of virtuous actions leading to the happy states, the experience of the higher realms, is what is desired. It's a fact that this happens. If one engages in the actions, then one will be reborn in the higher realms. It's a not fact that one would. It's not a fact, so it would be incorrect to say that negative actions lead to that kind of wished for experience of the higher states. And it's also not due to one's own wishes. It's really based on the actions, the virtuous actions that lead to the happy states. So that's the dependency here. Then we have the dependency of purity. The dependency of purity is, for example, that one will not attain total purity without relinquishing the obscurations. So the dependency here is that, or the relationship here, the correct fact is that when one relinquishes the obscurations, one will obtain total purity, or the result. One will accomplish the realization of the nature of phenomena. One will let go of all grasping, and therefore one will let go of all grasping true existence, and therefore reach this total purity. It is also correct to say that if one does not relinquish obscurations, one will not attain total purity. These are facts about purification. So that's the dependency of purity. It would be incorrect to say that one can attain purity without relinquishing the obscurations. So due to the dependency of purity, that shows the fact that the getting rid of the obscurations leads to total purity. And then the fourth dependency is the dependency of control. The dependency of control is, for example, that through the dependency of co-occurrence first. The dependency of co-occurrence is, for example, that by having accumulated matchless karma, a Buddha and a world ruler only appear individually and not together at the same time. We should also understand that we could alternatively translate this in the following way. Two Buddhas and two world rulers do not appear at the same time. Only one Buddha or one world ruler can appear at a time. I will say this again in case that was too fast. So the alternative translation here would be two Buddhas or two world rulers do not appear at the same time. Only one Buddha or one world ruler can appear at a time. So this means that they cannot be two Buddhas at the same time, because they have accumulated this so-called matchless or matchless karma. That means that it's karma that cannot be compared. It's beyond comparison. It's beyond any kind of competition. It's just matchless. There's no way to have equal karma to that. And so by definition, there cannot be two beings that have the same kind of karma at the same time. And that then leads to the fact that there can only be one Buddha at a time, or one supreme Nirmanakaya appearing in three times thousandfold world system. We were speaking about the 3,000-fold world systems before. I said there's one world system with the 4 continents and so on, and then 1,000 of that times yet 1,000 times yet 1,000. That's a 3,000-fold world system. And so the beings within the 3,000-fold world system are those that are suitable to be tamed by one supreme Nirmanakaya. And so the type of karma that is accumulated, or that makes this Nirmanakaya appear, that's matchless, that's beyond a comparison, and therefore by definition there can be only one such Nirmanakaya at a time. There cannot be 2 or 3 at the same time, because then obviously they would match, the karmas would match. So that's impossible by definition, and so that's why there can be only one supreme Nirmanakaya at a time in a 3,000-fold world system. So that's then the exact fact. No other supreme Nirmanakayas, no other appearances of the Buddha in form of the supreme Nirmanakaya can appear at that time. And similarly, when we speak about the a world ruler, the wheel-wielding kings, then there can be only one supreme ruler of the world at a time. There cannot be several. So one world system with the 4 continents and the 8 satellite islands is being ruled by one world ruler at a time. There cannot be several, because that's also due to matchless karma. They by definition, there cannot be 2 that have the same karma to rule the entire world system at a time. So with the 4 continents and the 8 satellite islands and so on. So it's only possible for one to appear at a time, again because of the definition that they have accumulated as matchless karma. So there's not, there cannot be 2 of the same capacity at the same time. So I will I will stop here for today, and let's dedicate and recite the aspiration prayers.
Jambalamba Jindara Kimba Dang Kundo Sambo Deyan Deshende Te Dai Kunje Jesu Taloji Kewa Te Ta Tamje Rabdu Ngo Dusum Shekbe Jalwa Tamje Je Ngowa Kangla Chodo Ngaba De Tagi kebe tsawa di kun jang sangbo che chire ramdo ngo wara enje sunam de ye tamje seba ni thomne nye be chanam pamche ne Kega nache balab choba ye sebe chole jowa jolo varai sho kewa di kewo kun sunam chozo shin sunam ye she le jong wa tamba e kunye Thombara sho lo che so drovara chenje labdo so che lamdo drovara chenje labdo so lam chuluba selvara chenje lamdo so chuluba ye she so charvara chenje lamdo so
Das,
naso
Anis, Sangin Sinda Yomare, Konsuik Tangoreda.
naso
Lasa, Anis Sadawala Jeo.
sanda wala jani naso
Lasa. For your attendance question today, guess what? Which chapter did we finish?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.